Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today's video, we're going to be finally breaking down the brand new Scar buff that came with a patch 11.1 to see how it stacks up against what used to be the king of 5.56, the M4. Now, in today's video, we're going to be breaking down a number of different weapon stats and comparing them to see which one we think is best. Now, first up is damage per bullet, and this is pretty self-explanatory. This means if you shoot a target that does not have any armor and no damage multipliers, how much damage each bullet will do to that target. We'll then be looking at the rate of fire for each weapon, which is discussed in rounds per minute. Then we're going to be looking at the damage per second. Now, this is a combination of the damage per bullet stat with the rate of fire for each weapon, and arguably is the most important stat when looking at any weapon. We'll then take a look at the bullet velocity in meters per second, and then we'll take a look at the attachment slots and recoil pattern of both. Alright guys, next up, let's take a look at the damage per bullet for each weapon, and we're going to equate that to shots to kill for each weapon, depending on what kind of armor and helmet the enemy target has. Now we'll have two rows to compare, the Scar and the M4, and we'll have four different columns to look at. The first column is a no gear target. Second column is a level 1 helmet, level 1 vest. Third column is level 2 helmet and vest. And then the fourth column is level 3 helmet and vest. Now you can see that the no gear and the level 1 gear target takes the same amount of shots to kill with a Scar or the M4. The level 2, however, requires one less chest shot on the Scar. And the level 3 also requires one less chest shot. So the headshot is still the same, but it is one less bullet to the chest to kill. Now, there is one small caveat here that we need to break down, and we'll go over that when we get to the time to kill, but take a look at the bottom image here and look at the chest of the target. You can see that there's different percentages applied in PUBG's weapon stats, and what this means is that if you shoot a target in the upper chest, you're actually going to do more damage than if your bullet lands in the mid-chest or stomach section, and it gets a little tricky when we start looking at time to kill, and we'll go over that in a second. Now, in order to discuss time to kill, we need to figure out what the rate of fire for each weapon is. Now, the rate of fire is not how fast the bullet flies, that's the bullet velocity. The rate of fire is how fast the weapon can empty its magazine, how many bullets it can shoot in a minute. And looking at this comparison, we can see that the Scar has a rate of fire of approximately 660 rounds per minute. The M4 has a rate of fire of approximately 720 rounds per minute, meaning that it can empty a 30-round magazine almost half a second faster than the Scar can. Now, if we go back to the original graph I showed you, remember how I said that the damage per second is actually one of the most important stat figures with a weapon? And this is where that comes back into play, because what we can do is take our damage per bullet and our rate of fire, and we can calculate the damage per second. So how much damage per second can that weapon put out? The M4 does do about 18 more damage per second, which may not seem like a heck of a lot, but because of PUBG's already really low time to kill, every millisecond can make a big difference here. All right, now let's break down that time to kill a bit more here, and we'll take a look at level 2 gear target first. Now, on the M4, you can see it's actually slightly lower time to kill, which is better. The lower number, the better. A slightly faster time to kill on headshots, neck shots, and most limb areas like arms, legs, and feet. Where it gets a little tricky is the chest area. This is where they kind of trade blows. So the Scar is actually slightly faster on the shoulder area and lower midsection, but the M4 is faster on the upper chest section. So you can see it's a bit hard to really say which weapon is best when aiming at chest areas, because your bullets can kind of jump around and hit two different damage areas. Now, looking at level 3, it's a bit of the same story, where the M4 does have a lower time to kill for head and neck shots, but it also has a lower time to kill for shoulder shots and lower chest shots and abdomen. The only spot where the Scar is actually superior here is the upper chest area against a level 3 target. So what do all these numbers actually mean? Well, to keep it very simple, the Scar is going to be more easier to control because it has a lower rate of fire, but since it has a lower rate of fire, that also means it's going to have a lower damage per second. So usually the M4 will win if you're hitting the target in the exact same spot consistently, but we all know how hard it can be to control a perfect spray every time in PUBG. So that's kind of where the Scar has an advantage, where it'll be a bit more consistent to hit your shots. And if you're using these guns as single tap fire weapons, the Scar will be superior because it does have a higher damage per bullet, and as we'll see in the next section, a higher bullet velocity. But on the other hand, if you're an incredibly skilled player who's already really used to the M4's recoil pattern, the M4 will still be the superior weapon. It's almost like comparing the barrel to the AK, where the AK has a higher damage per bullet, but a much lower damage per second. And that's the same story here. All right, now moving on to bullet velocity, we can't ignore the fact that the SCAR has almost 100 meters per second faster bullet velocity. Now, this won't make a huge difference, but it is going to be noticeable, especially if your target is moving and you're doing longer distance sprays or single tap fires. Having your bullet arrive quicker is going to allow you to hit more shots quickly and lead your target less. So if they're trying to dodge your shots, it's going to be more difficult for them to dodge each bullet. A quick side note, if you need help lining up your sniper shots better or hitting moving targets better, go check out my ultimate scopes guide video, which I'll have linked to the top corner here or in the description below. All right, now let's take a look at the weapon's recoil pattern. And what we'll do first is just compare the SCAR to itself, and we'll use a compensator on it, and we'll throw on the 4 different main grips for sprays. So the vert grip, angle grip, half grip, and thumb grip. Now, this little section of the video is not meant to tell you which is the best grip. If you're looking for a better explanation on that, go check out my ultimate attachments guide video that I just posted last week. It goes over all the attachments in PUBG and how they can affect your weapon and which are best for which scenarios. On your screen, I'll just give you a comparison of each of these grips on the SCAR, and you can make the decision for yourself which grip you prefer with your particular playstyle. If you're like Hambino and you love the vert grip, then that might be the one. No, I'm just kidding. He actually hates the vert grip. Hambino loves the half grip for a couple different reasons. In my opinion, the half grip and the vert grip are the two most interesting here, but the half grip does have a bit more of a volatile left and right horizontal movement, whereas the vertical grip has a bit more consistency and it's a more of a gradual left and right change. So it's kind of easier to control the horizontal movement, in my opinion. Now, the angled grip, if you have trouble with horizontal movement, is one of the best, but you will have to pull down the most since it has no vertical recoil compensation. And then lastly, since of course we're comparing the SCAR to the M4, let's go ahead and throw up a side-by-side of the SCAR versus the M4 with each of those respective attachments. So we'll do compensator and vert grip, compensator angle grip, compensator half grip, and then the compensator and the thumb grip. Now, let me know in the comments, what are you thinking so far? Is the M4 still kind of your go-to after looking at the comparison, or are you more open to using something like the SCAR now? For me personally, I think the SCAR is going to be an excellent choice for newer players or for players that just struggle to keep a consistent spray, because it not only has a higher damage per bullet, it's going to have a very reasonable recoil pattern, and it's going to require less attachments to be kitted out. So to me, the SCAR is an excellent choice going forward. Overall, I think more of the veteran players are still going to lean towards the M4 since it does have a higher fire rate and a lower time to kill. All right, guys, well, that's a wrap on today's comparison video. I hope you found it helpful. If you enjoyed it, be sure to leave a thumbs up, share it with a buddy, and subscribe for more PUBG content. I'll have an upcoming video on the M4 Mini 14 versus Barrel SLR and comparing the new nerfs to see which is best. And thanks to your guys' vote, the next ultimate PUBG guide that I'll be working on is how to rotate better and how to navigate in-game circles to position you and your team for the best possible win. Thank you guys again very much for watching, and I will see y'all in the next video. I'm out. Peace.